Okay, selling children's portraiture. What really motivates someone to buy? It really is the experience. Photography is not, to me, it's non-negotiable. It is something you have to have. It's not, I don't think of it as a luxury item at all. I absolutely do not. You cannot get those days back with those children. And so you have to create an experience. We talked about it starts at the consultation. Our consultations are 30 minutes, and during those consultations we're telling stories. But the stories are about the work and the experience that we give. It is not about us, the awards, the accolades, the things that we do. Do you know my clients do not know that I tour around the country unless they're following me on Facebook or really reading my blog. They have no idea that, you know, I mean, I've had some incredible experiences this last year. We shot commercials for Asia. We did, you know, Canon Asia. I have seen and done some incredible things, but I don't ever tell them that, because when I'm home, I'm a mom with a camera, and I'm a darn proud one, because that's what I built my company on. And the moms that come hang out with me, we're just moms with kids with cameras, and that's how it goes. So when I talk to people, I talk about the experiences, and I try to relate the experience to what they're looking for. So if they have a 6-month-old girl, then, and let's say that wall portrait was a 6-month-old girl, then I would turn to them and tell the story of that 6-month, and I'll say, oh my gosh, she was so much fun, and your daughter looks so much like her, or, you know, they all at this age do this, and so that client can start to relate that my experience with her child, I'm prepared for that. I'm going to give her a great experience. Now, this is where this is the nitty-gritty things that people ask me. What do clients see? When a client sits down, and this is a soapbox speech is coming, because this one is very important. When a client comes into the studio, I mentioned they're going to sit down. I will show you a sales room. They're set up a specific way for a specific reason. We tell them they're going to see a multimedia presentation. We dim the lights, we turn down the music, or I'm sorry, we turn up the music, we dim the lights, and we start that beautiful show. Now that show has a tremendous impact. When you're seeing your child 70 inches floating in and out, it is absolutely breathtaking. So they are going to see those images. From there, we're then going to start that process of the side-by-side comparisons. They're only going to see 30 to 40 images per session, period. Now, this is my soapbox speech. When you show your clients too many images, basically your job as a photographer is to edit your work and prepare your work to show your work. Your job, the client's job, is to purchase your work, and that is literally their job, to come and buy your work. If you show them 60, 70, 90, 100, my heavens, 150 images, you've now given them your job. You've now put your job, the burden of your job, on them. So now they sit down with you. A typical sales session is an hour and a half. That is the standard for what people can actually sit through reasonable amount of time from start to finish. So in an hour and a half, if you have 150 images, 90% of that time is going to be yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. If your sales aren't high, it's because you're making your client edit your work. And they can't buy your work unless it's edited. Now, typically, honestly, be honest, how many images are in a typical package that the client actually gets to buy? Just give me a guess. Like
5.
5? Thank you. That is the average. The average package out there in the universe, photographers put anywhere from 4 to 8 poses. So the average being about 5 poses. 5 poses are what the client's going to walk away with, right? So if you know that a client is, you know without a doubt the client is probably going to walk out with 5 poses, why would you show them 150? I don't care how good your work is. Why would you do that? I consider myself a pretty okay photographer, honestly. I don't even show all my work because it's not their job. My job as an artist is to get it down to the best image. Does that mean you have to sacrifice? Yeah. Stop doing the, oh, but they're, I know they look alike, but look, his little fingers like this. Come on!
You have to be ruthless.
No, but I mean, get rid of it. It's not funny. No, I'm just kidding. You gotta let it go. Stop that. I edit 1,000. You should see me edit. It would freak you out. I am like so fast that literally I have it down to 30 images and people are like, oh my gosh. You know, because it's kind of freaky. But you know what? It's not that I don't care. I've just trained myself to look for what I'm looking for and get rid of the rest and don't think about it. If you're like, oh, you know, 1 image with that is okay. 150 is not okay. So I'm not kidding you, edit your work. You want to make a lot of money, edit your work. If a client walks in, has 30 images, and they sit down, 22 minutes is going to be editing their work. The entire rest of that hour and a half is going to be buying products. You can't sell albums and purses and jewelry and wall collections if you're editing. You can only showcase and sell those things if you've actually got them down to it. Now, it's a very powerful thing. The emotional connection when a client sits down and does that presentation is tremendous. For those of you who do not project, I wish there was a huge audience here because I love this game. I turn to usually 300 people and I say, okay, how many in this audience actually use a projector to sell your work? I typically get in an audience of 250 people, about 30 people that raise their hand is the average. 30 people raise their hand and I say, okay, everybody stare at these people. So everybody looks at them and I say, now put your hands down. Now, how many of you that project in this audience doubled or tripled your income when you went to projection? All 30 of those hands go back up. I swear to you on my own life, and you haven't heard me do that before, if you go to projection and you follow some of these techniques we're talking about, you will at a minimum double your income, period. It's just a fact. The bigger you show, the bigger you'll sell, period. So understand. Now your questions are going to be, but what if you work out of your home? What if you have to go on location? What if you don't? I know all those questions. And you know what the answer is? If I knew what I knew now, then, when I was working out of my home, I would have bought a projector. I would have went right over to somebody's house. And honestly, I would have projected right over their fireplace. And when they looked at me and they said, oh, is that like an 11 by 14? And I would say, that's a 40-inch portrait. What are they going to say? They need a 40-inch portrait over there. They can't argue that point. It's there. It looks amazing. They're freaking out over it. They're going to buy the 40-inch portrait. So that's what I would have done. I would have hired somebody to go to people's houses with a projector and project in their home. And I bet you I would have sold collections all over the place. Because when you could say, hey, look, a 30 by 40 here, one here, hey, look, one up there, look up on the fireplace. So, I mean, I think it's really, there's some merit there. Now, I know that doesn't work for everybody. So again, I will always say projection is the way to go. If you can't project, the biggest TV screen you can get, like this, is good. If you can't have this, then smaller, smaller, smaller until you get to the biggest laptop. I know that everybody economically can't go and hook up projection, but when I asked you how much money you wanted to make, you said $100,000. Now how much are we making? Minimum.
2.
Come on! Make 400,000. So when I ask you about projection, you're not going to tell me I can't. You're going to say, when I project, that's what I'm going to make. And you know what? You're going to get there, I promise you. So the client sees 30 to 40 images. All of the images typically are, well, let me explain this. It's not up there. As you saw, I color correct in camera. I crop when I'm shooting. So I typically shoot with a crop in mind. They're pretty, you saw them popping up. They're pretty darn close to sellable right there, unless there's something I can't work around. We color correct them, we exposure adjust, and then we do crop them artistically before the client sees them. We use a company called ProSelect, which will come up later, but ProSelect allows us to crop it the way I want it to be seen and also click off that button and see full frame if we want to. I want to sell art. I don't want to sell 8x10s and 5x7s and wallets. So I want my size to be the right size. And that allows me to do that. So they will be cropped, color corrected, and exposure adjust. I mentioned earlier that sometimes we run them through a quick action to soften them, but mostly with kids we don't. This is 6 to 8 with full artwork. That's not true. Honestly, it's closer to 3 to 6 that have full artwork. 2 items will be art products with their child's image in them. So in other words, those little art collections we showed you yesterday, they will actually, or the day before, they will actually come up in the show as finished products, because that's what I want them to walk out the door with. Will I spec print? I think somebody asked me this before. Do I ever print for the client before they get there? We do have the Canon Pixma Pro 1. We just got it. It's the most beautiful printer in the world. Absolutely stunning. But on occasion, we have clients who spend well. And I will actually pre-print an item, frame it, put it under glass, put it on an easel, put a cover over it. Client sits down, they watch their multimedia presentation, they're emotional, they cry, and then ta-da, we pull that off, and it's done. My favorite image is done. And those clients, very rarely do they not walk out the door with that done. And those, you know, could be $400 to $800 sell right there. So yeah, we do spec print, but very rarely. I want to make that very, very, very clear. That's very rare. We do sell prints that way, but spec printing, you really kind of have to know your client. I would not do that for everybody that walked in the door. I'd lose money if I did. Projection rooms, you can see we have projection screens. We have low ceilings. I have to deal with those darn 8-foot ceilings, so I had them build up into the ceiling. The screens come down out of the wall. Behind that is a family, actually behind this one is a collage collection that we sell a lot of. You can see we're projecting directly above a couch because we want people to see. When they see, and this is what we call a sofa-sized couch. It's not a humongous giant couch because we want to show people that that's not a huge couch, and a 30 by 40 looks awesome over that. So if you've got a bigger couch, you probably need to go a little bit bigger because most people don't even realize how small 11 by 14 looks over a couch. The chairs are placed in a specific place. We have 2 chairs facing the screen. We know that if grandpas and grandmas come in, we have extra chairs we can bring in, but if you go to buy something with your spouse, this is so true. If you go to buy something like a car, this is my favorite. If you go to buy something with your spouse and you're sitting at the table and you're dealing with a salesperson, if your spouse grabs you under the table and does this, what does that mean?
No. Stop.
Stop or no, right? I have a rule in my universe that if my husband does that to me, it means yes. So if he touches me, I'm like, we'll take it. It stopped that whole pinching thing a long time ago. He's like, don't touch me. If he bumps me, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, was that an accident? So, because what I found, when people are together, they send signals, and they physically send signals that sometimes don't mean what the other person thinks. If they're together and let's say somebody reaches over and touches somebody, it could be because they're looking at a beautiful image of their child that's touching them, where the wife is going, oh, he's saying not to do that. So we separate them. They have to be independent thinkers in our studio. We believe they need to make their own decisions. Does that mean we shove things down their throat and make them buy things? Absolutely not. We will step out of the room when things get a little uncomfortable and they're like bantering back and forth. We'll step out of the room and give them a little space so that they can have a private conversation. Here's another one of our sales rooms. This is called the Gold Room, and you can see the projection screen is up now. So you can see that's a 30 by 40 over a very small couch. It's very smart to do that because now clients looking at that going, my couch is twice as big as that, and that's a 30 by 40 vertical. We could easily do a 60-inch horizontal. So you can just kind of see, again, the 2 chairs, the associates behind. We have nice speakers. We have refreshments. We have it all set up. This is actually the blue room, and this is the gold room here. You can see them tucked in the corner. This is the waiting area for the clients. So when they come in the front door, if they're coming for a sales session, they're brought into this room. We have a cookie machine that we bake cookies all day long. We have coffees and teas. We have water bottles. We have things so that the clients can make themselves at home. Also have art products everywhere. We have purses and metal murals and wall portraits. And in this room, we're going to show you the frame wall coming up. And the frame, this is the framing room, so we can take them in there. Now, we make this a very homey environment, but what's really happening is the client is having time to adjust to the product lines. They're looking at purses, and they're looking at these things going, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. They're getting planted in their head before we walk them into sales rooms, we all know they close in on you. We want to create an open area environment for that initial part of the sale, and then we go from there. So that's just to give you an idea of that. Now, if you work out of your home, I always have to go back to my beginning because I want people to go, not to say, oh, I don't have all that room. When I worked out of my house, I had a small dining room table and I put product lines on it. And at that time, I didn't know about putting large wall portraits on the wall. So I had tiny, like 11 by 14s and a 16 by 20. And you know what? I sold 8 by 10s and 11 by 14s. When I opened my studio and I put 30 by 40s on the wall, I sold 30 by 40s and 20 by 24s. So you show what you sell. I would by far rather have you, if you're working out of a small space in your home, I'd rather you have 2 amazing show-stopping images on the wall than 6 11 by 14s that showcase all the things you can do. Because you're telling your client an 11 by 14 is okay to go on the wall, and it's not. It's really not. So that's important. Sales appointments are actually booked at the time of the session. We do give them a reminder card to take home, and then we send the reminder email out that we talked to you about, and then the email does remind them that the decision makers need to be present. Mom and dad, everybody needs to be there. When dads won't come, and this is always the question, people always say like, well, who has to be there? We want dads to be there, honestly. Dads are great. I know everybody's intimidated by them, but honestly, they have control of that wallet too. When they come, when they won't come, we find that decisions can't be made. Oftentimes clients will say, oh, I didn't know, I got to talk to my husband, I wish he was here. They ask if the images can go online. That's the number one, oh, my husband needs to see him before I can make a decision. Or they cannot make the decision for one of the first 2 reasons, and they say, can I make another appointment? You realize that when they make a second appointment, you just cut their sale in half. If it takes you 2 hours or a total of 3 hours, 2 sales sessions, if you're going to make $800 in the first hour and a half, you're now making $400 as an average, correct? Because they've eaten up 2 of your sales appointments. So we have to close the sale. And I know that's a big, important one, and we're going to talk about closers as well. So we don't want to be waiting for mom to get approval. We want dad to be there whenever possible. When dad is present,